So I went to the caves in Slovenia, which are actually called this. That should be a name popping up there if I'm competent at editing, so highly unlikely. And the good news is that the coach trip from Italy took so long that it gave everybody a chance to figure out how to actually even pronounce it. I've got it here written down. Postojna. But by the time we'd arrived, everybody had figured out it was Postojna. I think that's right. Postojna full of stones, you see. Now, I've never been to Slovenia, and, or is it Slovenia? That's how clever I am. See, struggling with pronunciations today in this video. But as you travel through, you can see the architecture is quite different from Italian architecture, which is just an interesting observation. And when you get there, to the actual place, after getting a ticket, queuing, going, you are met with a train, and you have to ride it, and it takes you deep into the caves to the most scenic bit. I actually filmed our train ride going in. Yes, you're welcome. So here's a clip from that. It's a mystery train. Tripping about a trip. Look at these. But the thing about the train was we were the only people, if you watch the video, that we were worried about height, because you're going through tunnels, and if you're like a big person, like 6'3" plus, which isn't me, it all felt very low. All the, you know, you're coming at speed and there's all rocks sticking out, and we felt sort of like everything was whooshing by. And there was a few people who ducking, getting out of the way, but no one was as worried as we were. We were sort of down in our seat, sort of like this, staying on from the inside because you got rocks going there. It was sort of, it was like a scary ride for us. But I don't know why people weren't so worried about the rocks and the train, because they're probably just being ignorant and thinking it's a ride, they've worked it out, I'm just a passenger, duh, it must be fine. But I value my head. Hitting a rock at speed is not good. But you do begin to see some of the beautiful bits of the cave, and you go through this bit where they've got a chandelier, and apparently they do concerts in there, and I think maybe even weddings as well. But the acoustics must be brilliant down there. Probably make even me sound good. Ha ha ha! Now I know they always say it, but it is incredibly cold down there, surprisingly cold, that I should have actually worn more. I had a t-shirt, a hoodie, but I also had my trusty hat in my bag. And if you underdress for a place like that, you'll end up looking like this guy. Not my best look, but it was practical. At the deepest point, you're 120 meters under the ground. No phone signal there. Can't watch my videos down there. Now, one of the great wonders of the cave is something that lives in it. It's a salamander lizard thing that's sort of albino, faceless human fish thing. I don't know why they call it that, but they do. Now, this thing has the most boring life in existence. 1, it's in the cave. 2, it's blind. 3, it can live up to 100 years, and it doesn't even need to eat. And it can go without eating for 10 years, apparently. So I suppose that means if one lived to 100 and only ate once every 10 years, it would have 10 meals in its whole life, as an extreme. And these blind creatures in the caves aren't very considerate, because everything's blind in the cave. You can't start having flash on your photography. So, but they do put one of these creature things in a box for you at the end, so you can have a look at it, and you look through this dark thing and you see this little white thing with a tail, and it moves around, and they're super rare, these things, so lucky to see those. We were told by the guide that it would take you possibly 3 days if you had to walk the whole length of the caves, which is amazing. No wonder these salamander things can go without eating for 10 years, because yeah, how are you going to find like a little spider in this enormous cave? No wonder they need that time. The sights were incredible though. You're looking at millions of years old of history, and all these stalagmites, the pointed things that come up the ceiling and come from the floor. Apparently they actually meet eventually. If you're going to like wait for millions and millions of years, they eventually come from the top and the bottom, and they meet on points, which is clever, which actually strictly means that the cave is going to close itself in billions of years. And they specifically told us, do not touch any of like these growth stalagmite pointed things, because if you touch them, it stops them growing for many years, because they sense that they're sort of at the end of their journey, which I think is smart, isn't it? Because if it hits the top of the cave, it then knows that, well, I've done my job now, I don't want to grow, because it would just push unnecessarily. So, but I saw someone as I was following on the tour, somebody touched one purposely, and I think that's a really lame thing to do. Some things that do not touch because they just like arse covering and they don't want you to hurt yourself. But this was a genuine reason not to touch it, and I think that was pretty selfish. I condemn that behaviour. And as you're walking over these bridges, you can see this huge sort of drop, because there's levels on the caves. They take the tourists to the safe bits, and there's bits down below that are very sort of deep, and they're prone to flooding and things. So the hardcore people go down there, the ones with life jackets and death wishes. But you can see there, and they're just you're looking like sort of down a black hole at the end of the world. It's huge. Like a massive chasm. It's a really, really special place which has a very unique vibe. It sort of feels like this is all natural. It sort of feels beyond you. It's sort of alien in a way. It's sort of like this is the world. It does it regardless of what you do. This is happening. This is history. This is sort of like the science of the world. It's a strange feeling. It's sort of bigger than us, if that makes sense. Well, literally. Definitely worth a visit. Pack some clothes. Have a good time. And if you're interested in checking out that train video, as I said, it will be in the descriptions. You can check that out if you haven't seen it. And as I said, well worth a visit. It was good. And thank you for watching. Happy cave hunting. Although they found it for you. That's easy, isn't it?